Hey Internet, it's me. I probably should have redecorated the wall to be more on topic beforehand, but this actually wasn't super planned. But I want to talk about the new Venom movie, the Venom: The Last Dance. Now, first of all, I did see a lot of the reviews online before going to see the movie. You know, a lot of people were really not loving this movie, said it was the weakest of the three. Um, the reviews were mixed at best. So I went in with pretty low expectations because, if one or two reviews are bad, then whatever. If a critic says it's bad, that doesn't really mean anything. But if universally the highest score I'm seeing is mediocre, it's probably not going to be great. Um, I really liked it. Like, really, really liked it. I don't know what people were on about. Um, okay, I'm just going to get into it. Let me start with some negatives, because it did have some negatives that I didn't like. One of the big ones being the weird little clip show montage thing they did at the end. That was just beyond stupid. I don't know who thought that was a good idea. That was really, really dumb. That did not need to exist. There was no reason for that. God, that was dumb. Also, there's a couple references made in the movie, or some Easter eggs made, that just never paid off, and that's really weird that they would even include them. Like, they they clearly referenced Spider-Man, and I don't know why. Like, he did end up in New York at the end of the movie, but it never even hinted at us seeing Spider-Man. He obviously wasn't in the movie, and I don't know, it feels like that was just set up as a way to tease the audience, but it never went anywhere. It never paid off. It never did anything with that. And so I don't know why they brought it up. He could have just as easily seen the Statue of Liberty and said, hey, let's just go to New York. It's the other side of the country. It didn't need to so heavy-handedly reference Spider-Man, because they weren't going to go that route. So that didn't really make sense. Likewise, Mordo, I know that's not who he plays in this movie, but they cast the same actor, so it's on them for me calling him that. He talks to whoever's in charge and tells them, hey, do we have the six? Utilize them, or send them out, or deploy them, or whatever. And if you're familiar at all with Marvel Comics, or everything that Sony's been setting up with all their Spider-Man and Spider-Man adjacent movies, when you hear the Six, you're probably thinking the Sinister Six, which has been teased time and time again. It's one of the coolest things in Spider-Man comics is when six of his big bads, and the roster rotates slightly in the various iterations, all kind of team up and go at Spider-Man all together. It's a really cool bad guy team up, and it's always really fun to see in the comics, and we've all wanted it in the movie. So for him to say the Six, that's where everyone was going. And that's not what we got. We didn't get that at all. It was really weird for them to even reference that. And I don't know why they did. In the end, it ended up being, I think, just like 6 special ops people he had under his command, although everyone working for him was like special black ops people. So they were indistinguishable from the other soldiers he was throwing at, the xenomorph, whatever it was. And it just, I don't know, it was weird to throw that in there because it felt like it was referencing something and not just a title for random army men that you never even really see called out. So that was dumb. And honestly, I think my only other real complaint is Null being in the movie. Like, I know he's the one that sends the xenophages after Venom and Eddie, and he needed to be there for that to happen, but at the same time, you have one of the, coolest big bads in Spider-Man, and I know he branches out and he's a villain for other people too, but, he's an awesome villain. And, the small moments where he saw him, he looked really cool, he sounded cool, I was excited, but they did nothing with him. He was trapped the whole time, and even at the end, as far as we know, he's still trapped. He just lifts his head and basically has a Thanos moment where he says, fine, I'll do it myself. But they didn't use him. He wasn't really there. So why even put him in the movie? Not only that, but this is supposed to be Tom Hardy's last trip as Venom. It's the last movie. That's why they called it The Last Dance. So, if this is your swan song, this is going to be end of Venom, don't tease big, cool characters knowing that you can't use them because you're done now. That was... I don't know, that was very dumb. I didn't like at all that Null was even here, because now I just want to see him, and I'm not going to. Um, I think that's the end of my complaints. I think now I want to get into the good stuff. And honestly, it was the whole damn movie. Everything was great. I don't understand the complaints. First of all, I have to say, out of all three Venom movies, this is the first one that felt like it did PG-13 right. The whole time with the first Venom, and especially the second, I thought it was really stupid that they weren't rated R. You know, in the first one, when the evil guy comes in and his hands turn into those giant blades, and he swipes them across the tops of the desks in like the NASA Control Center room there, that should have cut every one of those scientists in half. You know, there should have been blood and viscera and partial bodies everywhere. But it was PG-13, so they all just got knocked to the floor. Nobody died, there was no blood, no one was even really hurt as far as we know. That was stupid. It felt sanitized and dumb and watered down and just completely out of place, and it takes you out of the action and out of the movie. So I hated that. And in the second one, obviously, we got Carnage, who's one of the most just unhinged, evil, brutal villains in all of the Marvel Universe. Like, he was a sociopath and a serial killer before he got the symbiote. You know, he kills people and just people and eats people and whatever. He's insane and just awful and brutal. And then he has an evil symbiote that lets him do all of that, but more efficiently. And to have him not be R-rated was just the dumbest thing I've ever seen. A PG-13 Carnage is like a PG-13 Hannibal Lecter. Like, it doesn't make sense. In this movie, everything fit. There was no point where I thought, oh, they reined this in because of the rating. You know, when he bit the heads off the Mexican cartel there, blood spurted out. Like, you didn't see the severed neck because they were facing away and the head just kind of disappeared and the neck was covered by like the edge of their clothes like this. But you saw a bit of blood. You know he clearly ate their heads on screen in front of you. It worked. It felt fine. It was great. Multiple people get stabbed in the movie, and at one point, Eddie Brock, after being stabbed, you see the bloody slice on the side of him. Like, it's not overly graphic, but you see enough of it that you don't feel like they watered it down for you. Likewise, there was swearing in the movie. There was, I don't know, everything felt exactly like you'd want. Like, you didn't feel like you were missing anything because of the rating. It didn't feel like it was held back. And this is the first time in this trilogy that the movie felt that way. So I was really happy about that. Also, some people probably were upset about the dance sequence. I thought it was fun. In fact, let me expand on that. The dance sequence, the thing with the dogs, and just, how he was, like, talking about them and wanting to free them and all that. The horse, even the family in the van. A lot of the different scenes or the different story beats that some people, and I haven't read in depth into the reviews, but I'm just going to go on a hunch here and say that those are things the internet would complain about. Those are the things that felt the most comic booky. Like, if you read a comic book, the comic is never tense the whole way through. It's never dark and broody from page 1 to the back cover. That's not how they work. There's always moments of levity, there's always jokes, there's always humor, there's always a bit of zaniness in there, just to, still keep it fun. Like, at the end of the day, comics were mostly targeted toward kids. I know Venom was created by McFarlane, who also created Spawn and did some good Batman stories, and he's always been more adulty, but still, comics are, by and large, for kids, or at least teens. So, to have those fun, zany, just goofy kind of moments totally fits the vibe of a comic. No part of that took me out of the story. It didn't feel out of place. It all worked perfect for me. I thought it was all very story appropriate. And obviously, you do get the heavier moments. You get Eddie and Venom, like, Venom seems to know the whole time they're coming toward the end, and Eddie either doesn't realize the severity of the situation or doesn't want to. But either way, at the end, they kind of have a little coming to terms with it, and it just, like, they definitely get those heavy moments. Also, there's some incredible action scenes, at the end when you get all the different symbiotes, and, oh god, what's the name? I think it's Lasher, the one that Christmas turns into. Awesome! All her fight sequences were great, I loved it. Also, the purple one, I believe the name is Agony. You only see briefly at the end, but really, really cool. I was very happy about that one. I wish we could have got Scream or Mania in there. That would have been super fun. But, I loved seeing all the symbiotes. I loved all the action, especially at the end. Um, Also, more to the movie's credit, this did not end with a same versus same fight. Venom was not fighting another symbiote and just having that back and forth CGI battle like every superhero movie, like the first two Venom movies. In this one, there's this big alien thing that the symbiotes are trying to fight, but their powers are not evenly matched, and so he can't easily take it down, even with the help of the other symbiotes. They can't really do anything. It keeps regenerating, and finally, he basically has to take control of it and try to absorb and contain all these alien hunter things, and walk them over to a highly concentrated acid bath, and just sacrifice himself to kill all the aliens with him. It's a really cool scene, and it's a really different ending than you would normally get from a comic movie. So, yeah, I don't know. I enjoyed everything in this movie. There were no parts that I hated, aside from the slideshow at the end. It was a lot of fun. I guess my complaint here isn't, what do people expect out of comic book movies? Like, seriously, what is it you want? Because when Marvel was just churning them out, and everyone said they felt too samey, and they were too serious, or they relied too much on the Marvel humor, or this or that, or whatever. So studios tried to listen, and they started to branch out. You got movies that felt different. Ant-Man wasn't a straight up, brawl fest with the same versus same fight and all this. I mean, it kind of was, but they were like heist movies, and you had The Last Mutants that was borderline horror. It was still a comic book movie, but it had a very different tone. Miss Marvel, not Miss Marvel, sorry, The Marvels felt super comic booky. It was just non-stop, comic book shenanigans and antics between the main characters and a lot of fun back and forth and just zaniness. That felt like it was ripped out of the pages of a comic and just put on the screen directly. The studios are giving us more of what we said we wanted. We're getting more stuff that doesn't feel the same, and it feels more like a comic book. It isn't so sanitized and over-controlled by the studios. This feels like the fun, just good time comic movie that we keep saying we want. Why are people complaining? I don't understand. So if you're on the fence at all, go watch the movie. It's really good. It was fun. It's a great time. You're going to enjoy it. Visually, it's incredible. A lot of the action is really fun. The horse looks badass. Even just the different venomized animals in the credits were really cool. And by the way, the very first one they showed was a squirrel, and I don't have the cover on the wall now because of course I don't and I hate myself. I'll put it up on the screen. But there's a venomized Tippy Toe from Squirrel Girl. It's a variant cover, and it's one of my favorites that I have, and I usually have it on the wall. So when I saw that venomized squirrel in the credits, I immediately thought of Tippy Toe, and just a fun little thing. I don't know if it was even an Easter egg. It might have just been a random animal they selected, because there was a bunch of other ones afterward. But it was really cool. So yeah, go watch the movie. It is a great time. Although, now I want to have a little side conversation. Because I just mentioned Squirrel Girl. Before the Venom movie played, we saw the trailer for Kraven. Boy, do I have thoughts about this. Honestly, the biggest problem I have so far, I haven't seen the movies, it's not out yet, obviously, but the biggest problem I have so far, aside from it not being in the MCU, because it really, really should be, is Kraven does not look right. Now, this is no hate on the actor, and I have already forgotten his name. I think it's Aaron something, I don't know. I think he's the guy that played Kick-Ass, if I'm not wrong. I think so. But anyway, he does not look like Kraven. He could play a lot of characters. He's a pretty jacked guy. He's in good shape. He's a handsome dude, whatever. He could play a lot of characters. If you look at, again, I can't even point to the wall because it's all the Halloween crap. I really should have redone the wall. Normal superheroes, he could pull off no problem. The problem is Kraven is not a normal superhero. He's a big, just unwieldy, just massive brick house of a guy from the Eastern Bloc, and he he should be so much bigger than the actor we have. In fact, The Rock keeps, as far as we know, keeps wanting to get into the MCU, into Marvel movies and play a Marvel character. This would have been the perfect cast for The Rock, because that's the kind of stature. He should be massive. Or, if they don't want to break the bank, a good example, and I'm going to struggle to find this picture, but I'm going to challenge editor version of myself and put up a picture right here somewhere of a guy named Eugene. He was a co-star of mine in a movie I was in. Great actor, plays an awesome villain. He has the physique that Kraven should have. He's just as big, just like, he walks almost like a gorilla. I know that's going to sound racist. It's not. It's just his stature and, like, the intimidation factor and just the shape of him. Like, that's what you need for Kraven. He has to be just massive. He has huge, broad shoulders and just a torso that's unreasonably big. Like, he just has to be a freaking brick shithouse of a dude. And the guy they cast is not it. He doesn't have that look. So everything else that's happening in the trailer and all the scenes you're seeing just look wrong. I mentioned Squirrel Girl because I am a big fan of the franchise. I've read them all. I love it. And Kraven shows up in there a lot. And I know he stars as a Spider-Man villain. That's why Sony has rights to him. But, he shows up in these other things. And there's even a storyline where he captured Squirrel Girl, Rocket Raccoon, Howard the Duck, and a bunch of other animal-based superheroes from the MCU. And, the reason he's able to do that is because he's the best hunter in history, and he's just this massive, unstoppable force. The guy we see on the screen, yeah, he looks jacked or whatever, but, like, we have the Hulk. We've seen so many other characters that could just easily throw him aside. Thor is bigger and more jacked than he is. And granted, he's an alien god, but still, like, Kraven should be massive, and he just isn't. So everything else feels wrong. And so that's my complaint with that movie. And obviously, they're not going to recast or reshoot it now. Like, it's too late to do anything about it, so I'm just going to have to deal with it. But I really think that was miscast. And again, no hate to the guy they got. He is a good actor. The things, like, I loved Kick-Ass. He's great in that. And, there's not that he did anything wrong. It's just that the people who saw what Kraven looks like in the comics, and I hope they looked at the comics before writing and filming the movie, if they saw Kraven, and I'm going to put up a picture just to compare of what Kraven looks like and then what the actor looks like. If they saw these two pictures and said, yeah, that's close enough, like, they're just failing. It was bad. It was a bad cast. It was a bad decision. It doesn't look right. I don't like it. It's the complaints that I heard some people make about Gambit being played by Channing Tatum, but the opposite direction. There were people, and I can kind of see where they're coming from too, where when they saw when they saw Channing Tatum rather as Gambit, they said, he's too jacked, he's too broad, he's too big. Gambit should be more of like a lithe, not necessarily like spindly, but just a more like athletic and leaner kind of guy, because he's a Cajun thief. He's not a bodybuilder, he's not a musclehead, he's not a super soldier. He's a thief. He needs to be small and light and agile. So to see Channing Tatum, who is rather jacked, in that costume and in that role, it was a little weird. Now, I still loved him in the role. He still killed it. But visually, I can't disagree with those people. He doesn't look like the Gambit that I know. And Gambit is another superhero I absolutely love. So I'm very familiar with what he looks like. And is not that. So yeah. That's my complaint about Kraven that nobody asked for and that isn't even out yet and might be a perfectly good movie, but let's be real, it won't be. But going back to my main point, go watch the third Venom if you haven't. It's very, very entertaining. It's a lot of fun. It's really good. I'm definitely glad they made the movie. I'm disappointed it's the last one we're going to get from Tom Hardy because it's just great. Yeah, I think that's it for now. Although, I'm probably going to have another video for you tomorrow, and it's probably also going to be about movies. I have some game videos I want to make, but the one I have in mind, I'm going to have to capture a lot with my capture card, and me and Elgato, we are not friends, so we'll see how long that takes. But either way, more reviews coming, and see you later. Oh, also, if you saw the Halloween thing, obviously I'm not dead. That was acting. So, yeah, thanks for tuning in.